Welcome back, subscribers. Something just came to me, and I often as I'm doing my daily do, it's very meditative for me, and it gets me uh be able to like extract information out and put things together. I imagine just about everybody does this, and maybe you don't know you're doing this. Maybe you do it when you're working out, or maybe you do it when you're could be like vacuuming the rug in your living room. Could be anything. Um, but I'll tell you what had come to me. So one of the elements this directly relates to uh, a YouTube video I'd seen with a remote viewer. His name is Lynn Buchanan, and if you don't know who the guy is, you can look him up. But he has been him and many others have talked about remote viewing 2050, and that they find out that the Earth's population is reduced by better than half of the Earth's population, something to that effect, like that degree level of uh, like like there's a big die off. All right. They use this and it seems incredibly scary, right? And I've been thinking like, is there another way that this could happen? Could they just do this kind of smoke and mirrors type of thing where on paper it looks like that the die off has happened, or is it physical? Because nobody's actually seeing mass carnage everywhere. That there's a some kind. I said that's a lot of humans. I said, and the way that the psychopaths that run this planet get things going, they'd be already capitalizing on this. So they would be buying, I don't know, funeral homes, crematoriums, anything that has to do with probably death. Right? They'd be really ramping up their efforts in order to capitalize on this impending, whatever 3 billion human souls that are leaving the planet. So I was like, I go, I don't think that's the case because they need to have us around. It's a requirement to have humans around to maintain the current infrastructure. It's got to be here. So I'm looking at it from a more this is a more positive perspective. So I'm like, is there a way to do it on a balance sheet? I start kind of thinking a little bit more along the lines of like, all right, the birth certificates, the human birth certificates, it's a live birth. If you understand about the capitalism, that's the reason why your name is capitalized and your birth certificate, your driver's license, so on and so on. So what they've done is they've created is your birth on the land. So imagine like when you're in your mother's belly and you are before your birth, you're floating in amniotic fluid, which is water. So you're basically like you're in a vessel, which is a human body, and then you're inside of water, and then you're birthed, and then as soon as you put your feet on land, then you're subjected to the laws of the land and you have birth rights and so on and so on. So that's kind of where that all that comes from. Now, the blockchain is run on international law, which is the law of the sea. Okay. So then I'm thinking this goes back to the depopulation stuff. I was like, if you can migrate in your populations back under the law of the sea and remove them out of the law of the land, or have two separate entities, something to do to this effect. If you could remove them out of one identifier, which is identified on the land, and you migrate them into digital identification, XYZ, stuff that's happening digitally, and migrate them into the law under the rules and law of the sea, then they're back basically in their mom's amniotic fluid. All right, they're now a vessel on inside the sea of excuse me, etheric space that our internet and digitation runs on. Okay. But that's where your representation is. So if you're a remote viewer, they would not really, if you don't understand this space of where everyone migrates to or leaves the planet, this would absolutely be a very simple explanation as to how this happens. Okay. And again, it's like by not knowing fully how the world works and how the nation states are so into census and population growth and all this other bit. It's like there's a gameplay that's happening behind the scenes that is using humans as pawns. Like it's a big chess game to these guys. So if you're traverse or putting them into a new legal system, or they're under their persona, their person is instead of law under the law of the land, it's under law of the sea. How would that look on like a earthly balance sheet, if you will? Wouldn't they be off the law of the land? Wouldn't it look to a remote viewer that they would be essentially removed out of the law of the land, or they be off the land, and now their persona and what makes them them, which is all stored in data centers and so on and so on, which is like your digital imprint, which is just electronic. It's all traversed and transmitted through internet and electronics, right? It's a law in the law of the sea, under law of the sea. Then they have been removed from the land. And if you're a remote viewer, on the ledger, if you will, they're looking at ledger. When someone starts talking population, they're talking about the ledger of the country. That's the ledgering of it, to know how many people are there in the population. If you put them into the law of the sea, which is not ruled or governed by any one particular country, it would be off their balance sheet. All right. And this is a very easy way to explain why they're seeing what they're seeing. So, like the human population through smoke and mirrors, like they always do, is just simply moving into a new jurisdictional environment for, I don't want to say control, administrative. It's under a different rulership on different administration, is under law of sea. So, at any rate, it's just something that came to me, and I'm like, yeah, that would absolutely satisfy psychics, remote viewers, everybody that's seeing this, because if they don't understand the legal element of what's actually here currently, law of land, and then they don't understand the legal element of the law of the sea and crypto and digitation. Like this right now, for you listening to me, this falls under whatever I say is falling under the rules of the law of the sea. Um, it falls under maritime law. Is You can look it up, that anybody that you talk to that understands the digital system will know that it's outside the US. That's the reason why YouTube can take off whatever they want, because it's their network. It's like they make the rules. It doesn't matter what's under the rules of the United States. They're doing business in the United States, but as soon as you put it on, that's why they have community guidelines. Okay, so does it mean it's going to be again, this isn't another another element to get people to freak out, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be controlled by XYZ. Be like, well, you already are. You're already under a certain administration, jurisdictional environment, which is law of land. So if you switch over to law of sea, how would that look on the energetic ledger, if you will, of the planet? Wouldn't you disappear off the law of the land? You'd be off the law of the land ledger. Now you're in the law of the sea. So that's why humans would be leaving. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen Deagle forecast happen by 2025 that half of the United States population was going to be removed. Well, that would be, that's what would be happening. So on a ledger to show, like, okay, we've moved from one jurisdiction to another, then in the old jurisdiction, which is what their data is showing, is migrating into the new system, which would mean that those people are leaving from the old and going to the new, because they don't have any understanding of what the new this new administrative enforcement mechanism behind digital is all about. So at any rate, I just put it together because I just had this conversation with somebody maybe 30 minutes ago, and I was started kind of like doing my thing and driving around and kind of meditating on it, and coming to the realization, like, yeah, this is I think this is what it is. Um it's not as heinous as what everybody thinks. So anyway, more to come. Cheers.